I slipped away, boy. It was dark, getting harder to see. Then you came my way, and I found a love that was bigger than me. The way we dance in the night, in a world that's black and white, glowing up fireflies, we illuminate the sky. We're together alone, even silence feels like home. As we face the unknown, never felt like this before. In the darkness I found light. Oh, you make me feel alive. Make me feel alive. Make me feel alive. In the darkness I found light. Make me feel alive. Right to the moon, Lord. In my heart I was empty but free. Laid my eyes on you and thought you're the medicine, just what I need. The way we dance in the night, in a world that's black and white, glowing up fireflies, we illuminate the sky. We're together alone, even silence feels like home. As we face the unknown, never felt like this before. In the darkness I found light. Oh, you make me feel alive. Make me feel alive. Make me feel alive. In the darkness I found light. Make me feel alive. Make me feel alive. I slipped away, boy. It was dark, getting harder to see. Then you came my way, and I found a love that was bigger than me. The way we dance in the night, in a world that's black and white, glowing up fireflies, we illuminate the sky. We're together alone, even silence feels like home. As we face the unknown, never felt like slipped away, boy. It was dark, getting harder to see. Then you came my way, and I found a love that was bigger than me. The way we dance in the night, in a world that's black and white, glowing up fireflies, we illuminate the sky. We're together alone, even silence feels like home. As we face the unknown, never felt like this before. In the darkness I found light. Oh, you make me feel alive. Make me feel alive. Make me feel alive. In the darkness I found light. Make me feel alive. Right to the moon, Lord. In my heart I was empty but free. Laid my eyes on you and thought you're the medicine, just what I need. The way we dance in the night, in a world that's black and white, glowing up fireflies, we illuminate the sky. We're together alone, even silence feels like home. As we face the unknown, never felt like this before. In the darkness I found light. Oh, you make me feel alive. Make me feel alive. Make me feel alive. In the darkness I found light. Make me feel alive. Make me feel alive. I slipped away, boy. It was dark, getting harder to see. Then you came my way, and I found a love that was bigger than me. The way we dance in the night, in a world that's black and white, glowing up fireflies, we illuminate the sky. We're together alone, even silence feels like home. As we face the unknown, never felt like this I slipped away. It was dark, getting harder to see. Then you came my way, and I found a love that was bigger than me. The way we dance in the night, in a world that's black and white, glowing up fireflies, we illuminate the sky. We're together alone, even silence feels like home. As we face the unknown, never felt like this
Listen, guys, here's the truth, guys. The stream's not starting unless the likes are catching up with the viewers, and that's just a fact. I mean, it's just pathetic. It's pathetic. It's embarrassing. What a horrible performance. I'm disappointed and embarrassed by everyone's showing tonight. 21 minutes, but you can't even like the stream. That's pathetic. Anyway, I'm just saying, it's just pathetic. Honestly, it's just really pathetic. And what is up with this fucking dead chat? Look at this fucking dead ass fucking chat. I mean, it's just a, what is this, a wasteland? What is this, a wasteland? I'm gone for 1 day with good reason. I'm gonna explain why. I'm gone for 1 day, and what do we have, a fucking ghost land of chat? Where the fuck is the energy, huh? Do you come here to just, what, lounge around and be fucking lazy? Huh? What do you think this is? What do you think this is? What, are you just kicking your feet up? You're just kicking your feet up and relaxing? Who gave you that permission? I want to know. Tell me the specific commander who gave you that fucking permission, and they're getting fired. And they're getting a court-martial. Okay? I'm so much slacking. Holy shit tonight, the slacking. Holy shit, the slacking. And they're not liking the stream. The chat is dead. What is this? Is this the fastest you can go? At this rate, obesity will be the #1 crisis in the guerrilla army. You can't run faster? You can't march faster? March faster! Faster with the Sun Gorillas. What is this, huh? The obese army? You're not even running. You're just waddling about. You're running your pants. Oh my God, it looks like President Sunday's running. You're just, you're already, the wind's already knocked out of you and you're out of breath. You can't even run faster than this. It's pathetic. It's absolutely pathetic. Absolutely pathetic. And to think, and to think, everyone, ladies and gentlemen, I don't say that ladies and gentlemen shit. Everybody, increase the fucking energy in this shit, because we don't have any patience for any slacking motherfuckers out in here who don't have, oh, what are you doing, huh? You're just, no, we don't have time to wait. There's no time. There's no time. You guys may think that yesterday I didn't stream, and that means nothing's going on. A lot is going on. A lot is going on, including I went on a huge deep dive. Obviously, I didn't read the whole fucking thing, but I managed to go into a huge deep dive into the 3-body problem, which is going to be the subject of today's stream, by the way. The Chinese science fiction novel, The 3-Body Problem, which was released, I believe, around 2006. I did like a huge deep dive and synopsis on all 3, because I know the show is out. We watched the show together a little bit, but the show is moving at too much of a slow pace. So I went a synopsis of all 3 books in detail last night. And holy fuck, it's triggering some light bulbs, and I have to share with you my initial results, also in pertinence to a recent clip by liberal Bill Maher. His name's Bill Maher, whatever the fuck his name is, and we're going to do that. Now, as far as attending to business is concerned, I want you guys to notice something interesting. First of all, so President Sunday uploaded a debate between me and him on his channel, and this Weasley fucking pussy, right? You know what he does? President Sunday edits out 20 minutes of the content, including the beginning where he goes, oh, I have to hand it to you, Haas. You're actually a lot smarter than I used to think. Like, he edited out everything to optically control it. I didn't edit shit in the one I edited. What a fucking coward. President Sunday is a fucking coward, period. He actually edited the fucking thing to remove all of the things that make him look like a lying piece of shit. Still wasn't enough anyway, but what a Weasley motherfucker, right? What a Weasley guy. And this is completely unrelated, obviously, to the topic of President Sunday, right? This is completely how could this be related to President Sunday, right? But this is something. Now, right? Now, I'm just going to show you an image, and you can make of it what you will. You can make of this image what you will. But I'm going to show it to you, and obviously, I would never want anyone to connect this back to President Sunday. I don't want anyone to look at this image and have it remind them of President Sunday, because obviously, there's nothing to connect there, okay? So I would never want anyone to go look at this hybrid xenomorph human creature from Alien 4 and say, oh my god, there's a resemblance. No, we would never say that. And I'm just showing you this image completely unrelated to anything relating to anything. So I'm not, it has nothing to do with anything relating to President Sunday. I've just been thinking about the vastness of the cosmic horror, and it reminded me of Alien 4, and I just wanted to show you this image. Of course, I don't think this is a creature that would edit out 20 minutes of a debate they had with someone. I don't think this is a creature that would constantly fucking interrupt you in the middle of a fucking debate to try and goad you into producing a clip for them in which you're yelling or you're being really loud to make you look like the unreasonable or irrational one. This is totally not a bad faith actor, cowardly piece of shit hiding behind their academic credentials to make up for the utter bankruptcy, right, of the actual substance behind their pretense to intellectualism and being a philosopher or whatever the fuck they call themselves, right? Has nothing at all to do with them whatsoever. I would never make that connection. I would never do that in any capacity whatsoever. By the way, if you are a hater, if you hate me, if you are opposed to me, if you are against me and it's such a dishonest way, basing it in lies, I am just going to say, you catch me on Rumble, okay? But really, you are a bankrupt piece of shit. You have no soul, you have no honor, you have nothing. You are the scum of scum, and angels weep when you were born. Angels spit upon you, and angels curse you. Angels curse you if you oppose me like President Sunday does. The angels themselves curse you. I am confident in that fact. Now, guys, taking this from a lighthearted topic to a pretty heavy, serious topic, I really want to, I mean, everyone's doing it, and I guess it means, I don't know how much it means exactly, but we should all have the people in Syria and Turkey in our minds and in our thoughts. Thank you so much, Dark Peterson.
How did you get that image from NATO HQ? That was a closely guarded secret.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's the new Info Warrior program from NATO. But guys, we should all have what's going on in Syria and Turkey. I have not kept up with the exact details of the events, but I do know the scale of the tragedy is just horrific. And I've been hearing reports coming out of there, and it's absolutely, it's so horrible, you know. And I really think, I don't know how much prayer works, but what can you do? And there is a Red Cross. Hux did mention there's a Red Cross to donate if you're interested in anything like that. And if you're interested in that, anything you wanted to donate to me this stream, if you want to go donate to the Red Cross instead, you know, I'll accept that all the same, right? No problem whatsoever. But another thing is that, yeah, there's people being trapped under the rubble. I heard about that, and it's a horrific scenario. And I want to draw a lesson from this before we continue. It's somewhat related, right? But you know, I think it hits so close to home to what I was talking about a few nights ago. You should not be here wishing violence on people you disagree with, because the world is already fucking violent enough, even without any human conflict. This earthquake doesn't, as far as we know, doesn't have a human cause. It's just a horrific disaster of nature, right? And look at how much tragedy and suffering it's caused. So these are the conflicts mankind will be bound to in the future to deal with and wrestle with. And I think that's the real conflict that's out there, right? That's the real war. And of course there's a real holy war against evil and wickedness in this world, but we should wage that war with the expectation in our mind that eventually, even in a world of global human peace, all of the tragedies, all of the horrors will still be here. We just won't have to waste time on ones caused by human beings themselves. And not to politicize it too much, but I've been seeing the comments by some of these Ukraine supporters denigrating and mocking the victims in Turkey in particular, and in Russia as well, because of in Syria as well, because of Syria's ties to Russia, the Syrian government's ties to Russia, and mocking the victims in Turkey because Turkey's refusal to, allow Finland and Sweden into NATO. Absolutely fucking disgusting, and it just shows the lack of morality and the inhumanity of the supporters of Ukraine in this conflict. Despite the fact that these people, like President Sunday, are morally grandstanding and trying to claim some kind of moral high ground and denounce people like me for being immoral and inhuman because I refuse to condemn Russia. These people have the morals of beasts and wild animals. They are indifferent to authentic human suffering. They're Satanists. They're evil. It's absolutely disgusting. These liberals. It sickened me to my fucking stomach, and I could not believe that the mockery of victims of an earthquake, unrelated to human conflict, by the way, could take place. I don't know where this Satanism and where this savagery and where this barbarism comes from exactly, but I could just tell you, Russia's does not represent that. That side is coming from the enemies of Russia. And if those are Russia's enemies, Russia is my friend. That much I can say with certainty. The moral bankruptcy of the supporters of NATO and Ukraine is fully on display. Notice how the supporters of Russia and the sympathizers with Russia never ever make light of any kind of human suffering. And even when they are confronted or accused of causing human suffering in direct ways, there's either a condemnation of it as a tragedy, or there's things we can't talk about here but only on Rumble. I'm sure you know what I'm referring to when it comes to certain responses. But never ever do people from the Russian side just say, yeah, we don't care when civilians die. It's okay for them to die. We don't believe that. We believe in the sanctity of human life, unlike these NAFO people and these supporters of Ukraine who willingly talk about risking nuclear Armageddon and, flattening over Russia, including Russian civilians, in the name of the so-called Ukrainian liberation and Ukrainian liberty. These people have no morals. They have the morals of beasts and wild animals, as Stalin referred to the Nazis. That much is very evident and very clear. Regarding the events in Turkey and Syria, they somewhat hit close to home for me as well, because although I am Lebanese in origin, I do not see any distinction between my people and the people of Syria and the people of Turkey. I think we are all one big people. So when I see reports and news of these families and grandparents and kids, I think of my own grandparents and I think of people in my own family. I don't see any distinction between my people and those people. I think we're all one people in particular, and I find it easy to relate to them on a cultural and human level. I relate to everyone on a human level, of course, but it's especially more immediate in the case of the people in Turkey and Syria, who I do not see as different from myself in any meaningful or substantive way. If that these are my people, as far as I see it. Of course, I'm also an American. Americans are my people as well, but this is a cultural background I have and an ethnic background that I have that is also an indispensable part of who I am. So I want to also add that element to it as well, that I am especially grieving in whatever way I can meaningfully for them. But it's just a horrific, honestly. It's like, I think all of mankind should position itself in such a way so as to be in that perspective. What happens when an earthquake comes and thousands of people perish and they're trapped under the rubble? How do we make sense of that? How do we make meaning out of that? I think that's where mankind must come together and really deal with its real existential problems. The real problem is not between human beings. That's just a cope. Human conflict is a cope for a deeper kind of conflict we have with the cosmos as a whole. And that is really the most terrifying one of all. That is really the scariest. That one is the one that requires the most amount of heroism and bravery and thick skin to come to terms with, in my view. I've also yesterday, I mentioned I was doing this deep dive into the Chinese science fiction novels series, Remembrance of Earth's Past, which is also dubbed as the three-body problem. I don't see science fiction as just something that, is supposed to be fun, right? That's more kind of space fantasy or fantasy fiction, right? That's more like Star Wars or something. Science fiction, if you don't know, is supposed to be grounded in real science, well-known or anticipated theories of science, hypotheses that belong to the realm of scientific knowledge. The fictional aspect is mostly supposed to come from the nature of the characters and the timelines and the stories, not really the extent to which this is grounded in something real, right? And I've long remarked on how, in my view, I think that science fiction is the new site of socialist realism. That socialist realism today must take the form of science fiction. And that socialist realism initially took the form of a kind of contemporaneity, of depicting the greatness and the achievements of the Soviet people in the process of industrial modernization. But the anticipation of the future has, for various reasons I can't really get into exactly, become a material fact as far as the nature of modern industry and modern progress is concerned. And that's why science fiction has assumed such an important role as far as the realm of the genre of art, the type of art that is socialist realism, especially in the case of China. And to me, the relationship between the three-body problem and the Cultural Revolution is absolutely fascinating. And it's a relationship I've been consumed almost the entirety of the past day or two. I've been completely consumed in thinking about that. And also thinking about the terrifying beauty of the novels, of the three-body problem in particular, and relating that to the Cultural Revolution. Now, I'm not going to sit here and give you a whole synopsis of Remembrance of Earth's Past series. And I think I want to do that in a more proper form, probably, because it's very hard for me to convey to you what this... I didn't know what the three-body problem was really about until I really did a deep dive, and then I saw how far the rabbit hole went down, and I was like, holy shit, this is extremely dense, and this is very deep, right? But all I can say is that the three-body problem is about some kind of interaction between humans on Earth and extraterrestrials, but because of the groundedness, because of how it depicts the scale of both space and time in relation to Earth, it is truly a kind of genre of real space horror, right? Cosmic horror, right? One that is very grounded, in which I'm going to argue, and maybe this is going to be in my Substack while I'll explain exactly how this is. Well, I'll also reserve time for this stream, actually, to explain how that is. How it's actually related directly to the Cultural Revolution and the repressed origins of the Cultural Revolution, which is also going to be directly relevant and significant when it comes to this covering of the Bill Maher clip, which, if you haven't seen it, I'm going to show it to you pretty soon. which is actually about... I've never seen anyone in the mainstream commentary make this direct connection between wokeness and the Cultural Revolution, but Bill Maher attempts to do this in an especially perfidious and pernicious way, which I want to kind of show you guys and put fully on display so you could see it for yourselves. And we're going to watch that together. Thank you so much, Crack Dealer. Appreciate you, man. Thank you. Oh, man. Appreciate you so much, Crack Dealer. Thank you. So, tonight's stream is going to be pretty chill. I don't anticipate there's going to be a lot of people here. The topic is not especially hot out of the menu, and it's also very late, right? So, if you're here, you're probably going to be privileged enough to get a very, exclusive and important stream, a pretty deep one, actually. Which, I guess this is reserved for the elite of the elite, right? I don't really anticipate this is going to be a especially popular stream or video, right? Anyway. Let's get right into it, why don't we? Thank you so much, Janar. Appreciate you, man. So this was it.
Good morning, Revolution.
Thank you so much, Jan. I appreciate you, man. Thank you. Thank you so much. We're going to watch this together. So more or less, Bill Maher is comparing wokeness to the experience of communism and the Chinese Cultural Revolution. The woke cancel culture kind of thing. And the reason this is such an effective message is because there's a grain of truth in it. And I'm going to kind of explain that to you. And it's going to kind of be in a theoretically dense way, but in a way that you'll understand. But the opportunism you want to keep in mind here is that Bill Maher is pretty much joining with the DeSantis deception. The DeSantis-style backlash against wokeness precisely does want to make... This is literally the antithesis of MAGA communism. It's literally like liberal restorationism, if you want to call it that, right? It's kind of like trying to blame all of the present problems on wokeness, on everything based, really, right? We say the problem with wokeness is the cringe aspects of communism, like Trotsky, right? But Bill Maher is coming here opportunistically, along with the DeSantis deception, and saying, hey, when these Chinese people and these Russian people took back their land and made a government by, for, and of the people, that's actually the same thing as when blue hair liberals are, being out of touch and out of control. Thank you so much, Johnny. Appreciate you.
Mao Zedong was good.
So this is basically the DeSantis deception on full display, where it's a false critique of wokeness, trying to sneak in a liberal opposition to, to ultra-based communism.
And finally, new rule, if you're part of today's woke revolution, you need to study the part of revolutions where they spin out of control because the revolutionaries get so drunk on their own purifying elixir, they imagine they can reinvent the very nature of human beings.
Look, you can talk about Prolet's cult. I think would be an accurate description for something like Prolet's cult, which Lenin was opposed to and which didn't last very long. It was just an art movement among some artsy-fartsy elites in the urban centers of the Russian Empire. But I don't think Bill Maher is referring to this. I think he's bringing the vague accusation that communists wanted to mold man in the image of perfection. Notice Bill Maher is not going to talk about the concrete things communists actually did, like give people electricity and running water and literacy and education and infrastructure and pretty much access to technological modernity and modern industry and things of that nature. I mean, I guess none of that matters in the face of this vague accusation that communism is just this abstract. Oh, you're trying to change. I mean, you could keep all that stuff about whatever you're talking about, changing human nature. That's not what communists were. Business-like. They were very pragmatic in terms of what goals they set about to accomplish, and they mostly did accomplish these goals. And what you're talking about is just a fairy tale belonging to the realm of your own imagination, having little to nothing to do with communism, except maybe on a literary or, I guess, artistic level, like George Orwell or something, as a hypothetical or devil's advocate scenario that has some kind of philosophical or significance or something. I don't know. But that, you just have to realize it has nothing to do with the actual experience. Thank you so much, Blood Depraved.
What's on the paper? Did I miss the news?
No, you're watching the news right now.
Communists thought selfish.
Hassan's raised $500K for Syria and Turkey. I don't think that's a bad thing at all. You know, I've critiqued Hassan for a lot of things. I've attacked Hassan for a lot of things. I've opposed Hassan for a lot of things. I'm not about to oppose Hassan for raising $500K for Syria and Turkey. I think that's a noble thing to do. It's a thing that, and I can't find any reason to condemn it. I have no reason to oppose that. And good for him, you know. Especially, I've raised no money for Syria and Turkey, so how could I critique that, right? There's nothing I could say to oppose that or critique that, especially because I've raised no money myself for Syria and Turkey. So good for him, honestly. I've defended Mr. Beast. Of course, I could also defend that was a noble thing to do. Why would I oppose that?
Selfishness could be cast out of human nature. Russian revolutionaries spoke of the new Soviet man who wasn't motivated by self-interest, but instead wanted to be part of a collective.
Bill, the new Soviet man was also referring to the type of men who defeated the Nazis. I hope you know that, Bill. Maybe that had something to do with it also, right? Maybe the fact that the Soviet Union was able to, within 2 decades, let's say 3 decades, right? Send a man to outer space coming from utter conditions of economic backwardness. Maybe this new Soviet man thing did have something to do with it. And maybe the new Soviet man was not so much about being a new species of human being, but basically creating some kind of moral code, right? What's wrong with that? What's wrong with a kind of idea of a moral guideline, a moral model to live by? Nobody believed you're going to change man's nature, but why is it bad to have a moral goodness to aspire to, right? Also, this is reflecting such an utter ignorance of Russian Orthodox civilization. Because you could also kind of make the argument that there's a similarity between this new Soviet man ideology and the Orthodox concept of, what is it called? Theosis, right? Which is man must walk in the image of God. And there's similarities there, right? It's drawing from that biblical unconscious of Russian Orthodox civilization. That Soviet ideology is impossible to understand without the context of, right?
No, it turns out he wanted to be on a yacht in a Gucci tracksuit holding a vodka and a prostitute.
Yeah, I don't mean to be like one of those people who try to interrupt this hilarious level of boomer humor. And we're all laughing at this, by the way, because it's actually hilarious. But it's funny that Bill is saying this when he's talking about they want to be on a yacht with a prostitute. Well, what about these women who would have otherwise probably become scientists, engineers, doctors, would have become highly educated in respectable fields, even if they would have become ordinary mothers for the family, which is also something that was venerated as very much respectable within the Soviet Union. They were more or less forced or trafficked into prostitution because of the deliberate dismantlement of the Soviet state. And Bill Maher, just so people like Bill Maher could be here and sit smugly and laugh about that fact. I know it's easy to sit here smugly and like, oh, those Russians. Has it ever occurred to you that they suffered the worst humanitarian catastrophe in their history since World War II? After the dissolution of the Soviet state, you think the phenomena of prostitution somehow just reflects something about the Russian character and human nature? You don't think that might have something to do with the utter devastation and chaos?
The new Soviet man was conservative by nature.
Thank you, MIG.
It wasn't about being PC. It was about being tidy, healthy,
Exactly.
hardworking, well-read, a family man.
Exactly, right? This dude is talking nonsense, right? But I want MAGA audiences to realize something. When Bill Maher is engaging in this cynical kind of humor, he's really trying to tell you that when your daughter has to do OnlyFans, or when your daughter, God forbid, becomes some kind of prostitute, that's just human nature. We should sit and roll over and allow that to happen, because it's just human nature, and otherwise we're being the new Soviet man, and it's impossible. So we're witnessing Americans losing their dignity, losing their livelihoods. We're witnessing young women being brainwashed deliberately into prostitution. Also coerced by economic means, by the way. Let's not forget about that. And Bill Maher is going to smugly sit here and tell you that's just human nature, and that just represents liberal Western freedoms. No, I beg to differ, Bill Maher. I beg to differ that this is just Western freedom. This is a methodical... You are the ones who try to change human nature. It's actually capitalism which changes human nature. You think a mother forced between feeding her baby and selling her body, or letting her baby starve, you think that's a decision thrusted upon by nature? Do you really think that? Do you really think that in optimal, normal, natural human conditions, these are the kinds of choices human beings have to make? I have to go rob, kill, and steal from someone, or else I can't eat or bring any food home for my family? Do you think human beings would have survived for thousands of years if this was the operating principle defining what human nature was? Because it wasn't. And I'm not even talking about anything abstract like this idea of primitive communism when we lived in egalitarian matriarchal tribes. I'm talking about basic human life for most of human history for thousands of years, where the conventions and norms of the village and the community basically dictated how people behaved. And these things were not considered normal, actually. Being based. Thank you so much, Jennifer
You raised
Eisen.
$100 in relief so far.
I mean, did I? Let me see. I have not. I don't know what you mean. Oh, you're saying, okay, I understand. Thank you, Jennifer. I appreciate that. That's I thought you meant like that my stream will be going. Okay, I get what you're saying. Thank you, Jennifer. I appreciate that. That's very good of you. I really appreciate that. We all do, right? That's let's give it up for Jennifer, guys. That's you guys, if you were planning on donating to me this stream, you know, I'm cool today. If you want to go ahead and donate that to the Red Crescent, that's completely, you know what I mean? I would consider that the same as you giving it to me. Is what I mean, right? I'm not going to do like a raising money thing tonight, but, you know, I just want to let you know, if you want to donate to me, it's all the same to me. If you donate to the Red Crescent, I will consider that the same, right? Like, I will be just as grateful to you as if it was coming to me, if not more grateful, right? Anyway. You know, listen, it's not in the nature of human beings to have to be put in these emergency, anxiety-ridden positions of you have to make all of these cannibalistic. I mean, we were taught that human beings lived in the jungle, and it was the Hobbesian all verse. That's not true, okay? So the actual people who do live in the fucking jungle, they live in communalistic type of societies, which I'd never idealize because they're not that great. But still, it's a fact. They're not individualistic when they're living in the jungle. But most of humanity has lived in villages and farming You're not dealing with this scenario where it's, you know, it's a complete myth. It's total mythology. This idea of, oh, it's social Darwinism and we're all out running around having to make these zero-sum game choices. It's either I get the coconut or you get the coconut. Either my family eats or your I mean, that's the exception. Those kind of scenarios, like in a famine, that's all just shit up scenarios. That's not what determines life or death in any meaningful sense for a civilization. Because by the time that people have to make choices like that, you will record that in history as this is a famine that happened and it was fucking just horrible, right? Nobody says this is the foundation of civilization, where I played a zero-sum game where I had to kill my fellow man to survive. No. The mythologization of war is even not about survival ever. It's always about some meaning, some spirit of some kind, right? So Bill Maher's completely wrong about all this stupid human nature bullshit. I'm not trying to say human beings are naturally, you know, not violent or something. I'm just trying to point out that there is a norm, and the norm is not this. Whatever this is not the norm for... I mean, you think this is a good life? You think this guy's fucking happy? He's not. He's addicted to drugs, and he's life... I mean, what is this guy gonna do when he's 40 years old, huh? You think... Yeah, he's partying and having fun now, okay. But you think this is a life to live for a human being? You think this is the kind of life that breeds generations and families? It's not, I promise.
Not standing in line all day for a potato. The problem...
Dude, it's like, you look at the amount of food consumption for people in Soviet times and you compare it to pre-Soviet times, and it's much higher. So what are you mocking exactly? Are you mocking the shortages of the late Soviet period? What does that have to do with human nature? It has everything to do with a deficient system, a stagnating system, which cannot adjust. I mean, why bring up this gobbledygook about, oh, it is natural how people are? It's stupid.
The problem with communism and with some very recent ideologies here at home is that they think you can change reality by screaming at it.
So this is where you're kind of going to get some grains of truth as far as post-Cultural Revolution Chinese criticisms of the Cultural Revolution. It was this kind of idea that they were trying to change reality with ideology. But what I'm going to demonstrate to you is why this is an extremely big abuse of that grain of truth by Bill Maher. And I'm going to explain why he gets everything backwards, actually.
That you can bend human nature by holding your breath. But that's the difference between reality and your mommy. Lincoln once said that you can repeal all past history, but you still cannot repeal human nature. But he's canceled now, so fuck him. Yesterday, I asked ChatGPT, are there any similarities between today's woke revolution and Chairman Mao's Cultural Revolution of the 1960s? And it wrote back, how long do you have?
Now, this is what I want to talk about. Because this is such a stupid observation to make. Because while there's a grain of truth to this, Bill Maher doesn't exactly understand why that is. There's a reason why Karl Marx said, history always repeats itself. First is tragedy, second is farce. And that actually describes the relationship between our woke cultural revolution and the one that actually existed in China. Because China's cultural revolution was much deeper than what you're seeing today. It wasn't some kind of... it had only in similarity with wokeness... The only thing it has in common is conflict, really, right? But in terms of the content of the Cultural Revolution in China, it's actually dealing with an irreducible existential problem. And you know what? We might have to use Microsoft Paint tonight so I can explain this to you. But let's actually use Paint. Let's actually pose a hypothesis right now, right? What objective problem is cultural revolution dealing with, right? And how it relates to wokeness. Because wokeness is not just a conspiracy. It's not just some I mean, in content it is. But there is a structural reality of the wokeness and the cancel culture that is grounded in some kind of paradox that from a historical perspective in America has not been resolved. In China, it has been resolved, but America has not. Why? Because America is lagging behind China on a civilizational level. That's the key thing. China is more advanced than America. America is trying to deal with a problem China has already dealt with, not in content, but purely as the material element. Okay. Cultural revolution. Let's deal with this first. Cultural revolution. Material, objective, material, significance. Okay, let's... Thank you so much, Blackback. Appreciate you.
If there is a cultural revolution in America at all, it will be to remove wokeness from our classrooms,
Yes,
from the workplace,
yes.
and from the public
I'm gonna
square,
get to that,
not
but
to institute it further.
ideologically, it was, of course, about defending proletarian consciousness from right? But what was it materially? So the Cultural Revolution, on an ideological level, was about this. It was the proletarian Cultural Revolution for a renewal of communism and the truth of communism and so on. But for example, problem with reducing it to ideology is form versus content. Now, this is an argument a lot of you are already familiar with, the dialectic of form and content. But, so for example, you can have cultural revolution without the communist ideological content, but structurally it is the same. For example, woke liberalism. For example, rightist obsession with purity policing, anti-Semitism, which I've been victim to myself, by the way, right? All kinds of gatekeeping and purity policing follow from this paradox. Now, what's the first one? What is the first form of cancel culture, by the way? Bill? It was Zionism. Purity policing and canceling people for being anti-Semitic over the criticism of Israel. This was a real thing, right? Nobody wants to remember that, but that I remember it, right? Remember Jeremy Corbyn, right? What about, I mean, that was very recently, but we're going as far as decades ago. That was it, basically, right? That was it. So there's an issue of the form and content here, and so what does that mean? The fact of a difference between form and content shows cultural revolution has two legacies. One that is ideologically explicit, and the other which is a truly material, historical, existential, and materially paradox that is not resolvable. What is that paradox? So, let's talk about the paradox of the Cultural Revolution. Let's talk about the paradox. The paradox of Cultural Revolution is the following. How can culture, consciousness, belief, and expression, which is individual, chaotic, which is, let's say, chaotic, whimsical, material, be reconciled with the universal aspirations of a given community? That is the problem. That is the paradox of Cultural Revolution. Beyond, and we're going to talk about the Cultural Revolution specifically. Don't think I'm going to ignore it. I'm just going to brush it under the rug in favor of this. But this is the central paradox. For example, how can one respond to an anime Twitter that just says the N-word? Right? Isn't this problem here? For example, you can say something like, for example, that's horrible and racist, and that is incompatible. See, usually by saying that is horrible and racist, and it is incompatible with the universal ideal, aspiration, universal aim of treating all peoples equally. Now, why does this not work? Why does this response not work? Now, here's the thing. When you try to cancel the racist anime profile picture, for example, follow with me here, guys. When you try to cancel them, the important thing is not the cancellation, but the reason. The reason lies in the view that if we extrapolate their whimsical behavioral expression to a Kantian categorical imperative, or it is obviously incompatible with all what we believe is a good society. Now, okay. What does this Kantian categorical imperative mean? Kantian categorical imperative is basically like act as though you would believe this is the action would be universe moral for anyone, your circumstances. That's kind of, that's not, I know there's, well, vaguely this is the case, right? Vaguely this is Kant's categorical imperative. It's basically like, take this action. For example, if we all started saying the N-word and being racist, wouldn't it lead to a bad social outcome? Would it not lead to some kind of untenable social outcome? Race wars, culture wars, etc. Social instability, complete enmity between trying to live in a society, etc., right? So why doesn't this work? Why doesn't this work? By the way, Anyone who's leaving the stream because you're too stupid to understand this, I just want you to know you are naturally stupid. There's nothing you can do to understand this. You should be leaving. Get the fuck out of here. You're a fucking idiot. This is cutting edge theory. Fucking dumb fuck. I'm gonna tap out because this... Literally, you will never get a better understanding of how this shit is working anywhere else. But whatever, right? Fucking go eat your fucking Cheetos, fat bitch. Anyway, look. Why is this categorical imperative a ineffective response to that kind of chaos? Why is it ineffective? That's the problem. Because these discursive anarchists, people being edgy on the internet, are, rather than committing themselves to Kantian categorical imperative of any kind, trying to make a point. And that is their aesthetic. Their implicit point consists in the impossibility of uniting the ideal of a good society on a social level with the whimsical, ambiguous, unpredictable, and wild reality of individuality and individual expression. In other words, there is something false about the Kantian morality. That is the central paradox, right? Cancel culture and wokeness is just based in something anyone would find reasonable. I must condemn your behavior because if this was a universally, if I elevate this behavior to some kind of universal status, it would be socially harmful somehow, right? Forget about socially harmful because that's subjective. It would be socially impossible. It is by nature antisocial and anarchistic to be engaging in edginess on the internet. It is just by nature that, right? It is by nature that. Forget, you're going to be like, well, Haas, well, they have a racist Nazi ideology where they want to exterminate all these... Sometimes that does exist in practice, like Azov in Ukraine. But these people could never shoulder the responsibility of building any real political community. The racist anime profile picture could never shoulder the responsibility of leading any kind of political movement at all. Those people are just anarchists, right? You really think the edgy anime picture on Twitter, you think that person can be a leader of and be responsible for any kind of community of human beings at all? No, they can't. They can declare that they are Hitlerite Nazis, but they're just trying to be edgy and make a specific point implicitly. They're trying to make the point that it's impossible. Not only is it impossible with uniting the ideal of the good society with the wild reality of the individual, they are trying to say that anyone who has the pretense to this is doing something inherently false and impossible. That's their aesthetic. That is basically their aesthetic. Their aesthetic is trying to expose there is something impossible in that, right? Why is it false or impossible? Because the universal aspirations of society, for example, differ in form from something like that. This is kind of the paradox, right? That content could be determined by something social, sure, but there is no direct relationship between the individual unconsciousness and the ideal aspirations of ideological consciousness. They may be related, sure, but not directly. The latter cannot explicitly define the terms of the former. That is really the paradox. It doesn't actually matter what the content is. Cancel culture is the inevitable result. Wokeness. Wokeness. See, Bill Maher's a fucking idiot. We all know wokeness is something excessive and unreasonable and ridiculous. But none of these people actually can consistently critique it. Because all wokeness is simply, in our ordinary, normal, liberal society, all it is doing, it is taking everything to its conclusion at the level of a kind of Kantian categorical imperative. For example, we have statues to Abraham Lincoln. It is a fact, according to the universities. Maybe let's assume it is a fact, right? That Abraham Lincoln was racist. That Abraham Lincoln did genocide the Native Americans or something, right? And that is the impartial, unbiased conclusion the universities are drawing. How can that be squared with having statues to Abraham Lincoln if, according to our normal liberal sensibilities, everyone is supposed to be treated equally before the law, or formally at least, right? You don't need any communist or Marxism to explain the paradox of wokeism. Now, the only significance of the Cultural Revolution, the reason it appears similar to the Cultural Revolution is because the Cultural Revolution represented... Thank you so much, Carlo.
Enemy profile picture nosies, to be fair, could lead a community of horse nupper. So actually you are technically wrong.
I don't know what that means, right? But the reason it appears, wokeness, for example, appears similar to the Cultural Revolution is because the cultural represented the reduction of ideological, political ideology to phenomena. Was the first instance of political ideology basing itself in phenomena rather than in institutions. So for example, before the Cultural Revolution, the political ideology, content of political ideology was just the bland political power of state, right? Now, it is based in consciousness, in cultural phenomena, in something, in the way we give expression to the world, the way we represent it as a society, okay? So, Why China, for example, right? And why did this happen more specifically? Because, first of all, the era of mass culture made the production of culture something accessible to everyone. And the criticism of culture is something now artificial rather than passed down by tradition, is something manufactured. So culture itself becomes socialized in communism and in the capitalist, corporate, consumerist West. Okay? Culture, the key thing is culture becomes socialized. What does that mean? Culture, or the production thereof, acquires some kind of social significance. It is considered something meaningful at the level of all society. What society should aspire to ideologically and politically. By the way, rightists are no different. Today's rightists are no different. Ever seen one of those trad West accounts? They want basically trad cultural aesthetics. What about the quartering? Doesn't he like Top Gun and want mass-produced culture to reflect what he considers better ideals? So the problem is not necessarily an ideological one. It is a paradox of a deeper aesthetic shared both left and right. The right is superficially critical of this aesthetic, but cannot actually respond to it without often being hypocritical, right? That's the situation we're dealing with when it comes to wokeness. And the same is true for Bill Maher. Happy to cancel people for being my keyboard is broken, anti-Semitic for opposing Israel, but is complaining about woke leftism. So that is the situation, right? You need to understand that it's not necessarily an ideological one. It's a deeper problem of the deeper aesthetic. Deeper aesthetic, by the way. Aesthetic. Well, how we make sense of the world. On an unconscious, in a coherent and unconscious way. So, that is the problem, right? That is the problem. That is really the problem. You cannot escape the cultural revolution. Not via anti-wokeness or wokeness. You have to go through it. What does that mean? Well, before we get into this, I just want to let this hang over your head. The cultural revolution is inescapable because now we have socialized culture. Culture is something that has objectively a social significance, right? If someone, for example, says some horrifically edgy thing, does this not have a social significance to you, even if you are a reasonable person? right? We are all hypocrites in a way when it comes to critiquing wokeness, because structurally we share the same position when this happens, right? Someone says something very edgy and unacceptable, right? Something edgy and something we consider unacceptable. Okay. So what is really the paradox of cultural revolution then? Let's go back to this contradiction. The contradiction. Categorical universal morality versus material reality. That is literally, quite simply, the basis of the contradiction. Whether as a universe, political ideology, wokeness, rightist, or whatever. That is really the problem, right? Trad versus material reality. That is an objective contradiction. Why is there a contradiction here? What is really the discontinuity we're dealing with here, right? Sorry, we spelled material wrong. What are we dealing with here, though, right? When I say material reality. Because this is where things get interesting. There lacks a direct continuity or relationship in the object of the aesthetic and the object of an institution's universal ideals. Let's start with this. There lacks a direct continuity between the object of the aesthetic and the object of an institution's universally ideals. Think of the priest with a hat on sideways singing Jesus hip hop will never be cool. Hakeem cool either. When trying to shoehorn to directly politicize art, right? This is really the problem. It all goes back to this, right? Now, but why is this? Why is this, right? Why is this? Is it because aesthetics are unrelated to this? No, they're actually related. It's just that their relationship is dialectical. There's no direct relationship between them. The key word, thus, should be direct here, right? Even though they're related, it's just not a direct relationship. Now, again, why is this and what does this mean? What is the object? What is the object of the aesthetic? Let's start with that. What in the first place is the object of our aesthetic? The way things make sense objectively. The object of a conscious ideal is the way something should make sense, or the way it ought to make sense according to a contrived view for what society should look like. For example, when the teacher tries to say memes and the kids all find it very unfunny, yes, very much so. Why is that, by the way? Because the teacher clearly is trying to still be here, right? Like, in the form of the conscious ideal is in the form of an education. They want to educate you and have you learn something, right? According to some institutional paradigm. So it's there, right? It's there. The problem is this. Here is how they are related. Our conscious ideals are more or less derivative from our aesthetical unconscious. What is a conscious ideal? What is a conscious ideal? What is a conscious ideal, right? It is a specific representation of reality that is supposed to make sense, okay? It's inherently moral, right? Because of this. It's supposed to make sense. Does it actually make sense? Well, that depends. Does it actually? That depends on the fidelity it has to the conditions of its origination in the material unconscious. So ideally, for example, or that's a bad word. The G era, for example, resolves the Cultural Revolution paradox by refusing to dictate the terms by which the conscious ideal finds expression and harmony with the aesthetical unconscious or the material conditions of its origination. There are many possible paths to socialism.
Based.
Thank you so
We
much,
should
Carlo.
just have a social credit system to keep the culture from moving too far after reaching an acceptable point, or it would degenerate/degrade.
Again, the social credit system is not really a thing. But this is the G kind of era. But what does this crucially rely on? So now for the first time, we're going to use this, right? So let's say, how should I go about this? Let's say we're going to represent this as a circle, right? The circle is the material unconscious, right? The circle is this material unconscious. And then this is the ideal. Let's just represent it as a empty circle. This is the ideal. So this is the unconscious, and then this is the ideal, right? The problem is that when this ideal, for example, is imposed on the whole of society, as in the case of the Cultural Revolution in China, does it close off its connection to its origins? Does it reproduce its origins? Or does it close off these connections? Does it foreclose its own origins, or does it repeat these origins? Well, for example, in the case of wokeness, it doesn't. The origin is 17th century Anglo metaphysics, right? Origin is ancient Anglo metaphysics. Let's just say that, right? The origin is in this kind of ancient Anglo metaphysics. This is wokeness. Forgets its origin. Doesn't repeat its origin. So what wokeness does is, having no self-awareness, having no way of confronting this original aesthetic. It is an aesthetic, by the way. The aesthetic, namely, aesthetic of blind universalism, right? Of unhappy consciousness. Having no way to become aware of this origin, to critique this origin in any kind of way, it erases, right? Erases its own connection to its own origin, and then you just get the ugly content, which just gets blindly imposed on all of society. And no one can put an end to the nightmare, because no one has the courage to confront its origin. See the problem, right? Now, what is the origin? Then this opens up the question. What was origin of China's cultural revolution? Was it the blind universalism of Damn, holy fuck. Let me check something. Yikes. Yikes. Ah, it's such a shame, man. No. No, it was in an event which of a new metaphysics heralding a new Chinese era. That is why China woke up from its nightmare, but we are trapped within it. It's simple as this, really. China's cultural revolution did indeed take the form of trying to impose universal ideals on every expression. Spontaneous and material expression of life. Except, of course, the economic one. Reality of forces, largely unaffected China's economy was happy. Many don't know this. Many don't know this, that many don't know this though, right? Now, how did this? China's Cultural Revolution made intelligible or sensible the true immovable, unalterable material of the forces and relations of production. By reducing all reality to culture, it basically exposed the realities that could not be directly did by culture because they were not culturally relevant. This is not human nature, as Bill Maher claims. It is the reality of the mode right? Being ideologically correct is not going to affect the techno-scientific nature of the forces of production, for example. It won't alter it whatsoever, right? So that is really the positive achievement. Positive was deeper, though. Unleashing of China's civil society. What do I mean by that? Well, it's discussed none other than in this book, right? I'll Ruin Everything You Are, which also references Dongping Han's Unknown Cultural Revolution. The Unknown Cultural Revolution, where slogans, rather than simply weaponized against random people by young Red Guards, directly empowered China's agrarian rural class, let's say peasants, and the spirit of the movement to acquire positive recognition politically at the expense of Sovietized technocrats was a democratic. So this is really what I'm getting to here. What is America's way out? The dark cultural revolution. In the same way that China's peasants acquired political subjectivity, revolution, and it was not just urban students who mouse with their excesses. We need to send the students down to the country to learn from the peasants, as Mao did for the Red Guards. The Maga Cultural Revolution. That's our unknown cultural revolution. In the same way with China, Maga gave the Americans of the Midwest, Red State, the deindustrialized proletariat, and hillbillies political subjectivity. in a way that is not that dissimilar from China's Cultural Revolution. We must give positive content to the American Cultural Revolution by drawing out its positive consequences. The wokes have already destroyed the liberal institutions of society. Now they will reap what they sow. Red tsunami of Maga awakening from the American countryside. Is that spelled so correctly? Probably not, right? Instead of bitterly bickering, bitching, and moaning, fuck! Like Bill Maher or DeSantis, we will draw out the real consequences. Thank you so much, Johnny. Appreciate you.
Send the liberals to Maga Farmer Jack.
Yes. This is Magma. Magma. That is what we're dealing with. Magma! That is the Cultural Revolution. The only way we can resolve the distinction between culture and material reality only way we can resolve the distinction between culture and material reality is by participating, addressing the political subject of Maga. That is how America's farcical cultural revolution comes to an end. Not by returning to the past, but by accelerating to the future. How, by the way? Why is this? The political subject of Maga is irreducible to cultural ideology or consciousness. Let's put it just this way. Thank you so much, Matthew. By recognizing Maga, the Maga political subject, as in their material reality, sensibility of that which lies below the surface of universalizing cultural ideals can be denegated. Again, it's the unknown cultural revolution we want to recognize here in America. And that is why we're different from Bill Fraudulent Maher, the fraud. Because Bill Maher doesn't talk about how the Cultural Revolution in China came to an end. Mao is the one who sent the Red Guards down to the countryside. That destruction which occurred in the Cultural Revolution is the foundation of today's thriving and prosperous China, which is a communist state, by the way, Bill. China solved their Cultural Revolution. We have not. that means communism is superior to this capitalism we have. Because capitalism cannot solve a cultural revolution. Only communism can. It's a real problem. It's not about communism. It's a real problem. Okay. Let's continue the Bill Maher clip. Thank you so much, Matthew. Holy fuck. Thank you so much, Matthew. Appreciate it. Appreciate you a lot, Matthew. Thank you.
Because, again, in China, we saw how a revolutionary thought he could do a page-one rewrite of Humans. Mao ordered his citizens...
Again, it had nothing to do with what the Cultural Revolution was actually about. The Cultural Revolution was about challenging the Chinese bureaucracy and party bosses who were completely out of touch with the Chinese people. And as a matter of fact, we're just imposing the Soviet kind of version of cynical bureaucratic socialism onto China. And Mao, with his Cultural Revolution, it was a call, it was a rising of the whole Chinese people. It wasn't just these privileged students or something. It was a call, it was a new era for all of China. You miss that dimension and just completely falsely depict the history of communism.
To throw off the four olds, old thinking, old culture, old customs.
The Four Olds campaign was a detail within the history of like the 10-year-long Cultural Revolution. But the Four Olds campaign, yes, was weaponized against local party bosses that Dong Ping Han described in The Unknown Cultural Revolution against the common people. But then it was turned against them themselves. The Four Olds chapter of the Cultural Revolution was not what it was about.
And old habits.
But you have to understand, these are not the old thinking, culture, and customs and habits because they were immoral or ideologically wrong. You're missing an important context, Bill. The context being that these olds, four olds, were said to be responsible for China's century of humiliation and weakness. And that's why this happened. The national aspect of national awakening, he's not mentioning because he's trying to make it seem like it was about an abstract ideology, and it wasn't.
So, your whole life went in the garbage overnight. No biggie.
No, it didn't. That's not true. That's not what happened. Holy fuck. Wasn't your whole life. It was, yes, they did this iconoclasm to give expression to we will never ever be victim to a century of humiliation again. That's what it was about. They thought these things were backward and keeping them backward and in the past. Now, they were wrong, probably. Ask Chinese people what they think. It's not our business to really judge, but it's not the point. You've got it completely wrong.
And those who resisted were attacked by an army of purifiers called the Red Guard, who went around...
Dude, the Red Guard was not formed to stop people resisting the destruction of the Four Olds. The Red Guard was basically the Chinese youth challenging the elders who represented, again, the status quo, the authority of China.
Around the country putting dunce caps on people. Yeah.
But you knew these people were like leaders in the Communist Party oftentimes, and they were authorities. They were the already existing communist authorities. So how can you blame communism for this?
Who didn't take to being a new kind of mortal being.
No, it wasn't that they didn't want to be a new mortal being, Bill. It was that they were considered cynics. They were considered fake, basically, by the Red Guards. Bill, these people had authority. It wasn't like these were like innocuous, ordinary citizens all the time. These were oftentimes people who had power. And that power was supposed to be founded on sincere communist belief. And the Red Guards were basically saying these people are cynical, they're self-aggrandizing, and they don't actually base themselves in the founding mission of the party and so on and so forth.
A lot of pointing and shaming went on. Oh, and about 1 million dead. And the only way to survive was to plead insanity.
What a description. What an education. So Bill is basically, oh, we better be careful, guys, or else we're going to end up like China was. Well, there's no going back. We already are going to end up like China's ahead of us. So we have to either respond to it, or you can keep coping like a hypocrite like Bill, who still wants to put on dunce caps on people who are against Israel. Funding for Israel. What about that, Bill?
For the crime of being insufficiently radical, then apologize and thank the state for the chance to see what a peace...
The state? Dude, it was the state that was the victim of this. Why are you saying thank the state, dude? The state was the one under siege. Holy fuck. Dude, the Red Guards were targeting the people. So Mao was the paramount, symbolic, and real leader of China, okay? But the state machine, was what Mao was declaring a crusade against. So you got it backwards. Thank you, Carlo.
It is possible for you to get to talk to Bill. It's an easy win and more people will get to know you.
No, dude, he'd just be like smugly be like, wow, dude, I don't want to, it's not, what am I going to talk to him about, dude?
Piece of shit you are.
To the state? What a lie.
And of course...
Not true. The Red Guard associations, and even, for example, the Jimmo County Cultural Revolution makeshift organizations were outside of the state's bureaucracy. They were spontaneous, grassroots forms of association that were formed by Chinese people, not by the Chinese state in a top-down bureaucratic fashion.
Submit to re-education, or as we call it here in America, freshman orientation. Listen to this.
Bill is not responding, though, to the problem of wokeness. Again, this happened and spiraled out of control for a reason. You go from ordinary liberalism to this. And the only difference is that we now live in the phenomenological information age, where, yes, what is power? What is authority? How do we morally hold others to account? What does that even mean? Bill has no solutions or response to this. He's just attacking the symptoms instead of the disease.
This story. There's a law professor at the University of Illinois, Chicago, named Jason...
Imagine if we could do a cultural revolution against we could hold our politicians accountable and shame them and say, shame on you, shame on you. I've never, not advocating for any violence. I'm saying, like, imagine if we could humiliate the criminal and incompetent and corrupt ruling elites, politicians of our society. That's the Ron Paul cultural revolution right there.
Kilborn, whose crime was that on one of his exams, he used a hypothetical case where a black female worker sued her employer for race and gender discrimination, alleging that managers had called her 2 slur words, the type of real-world case these students might one day confront. And knowing the extreme sensitivity of today's students, he didn't write the 2 taboo words on the test, just the first letter of each. He was teaching his students how to fight racism in the place where it matters most, the criminal.
So who do I side with? This is why I'm trying to say we must draw out the positive content. So this was a professor who was canceled. And he was a Harvard or he was a Yale professor. And then here comes Dark Haas. The students go, is Dark Haas on our side? The professor goes, is Dark Haas on my side? And then Dark Haas emerges from the shadows and I go, yes! Let's sack the Yale professor. Matter of fact, let's sack all of the universities. Let's defund all the universities. Let's collapse the university system. Let's send the kids down to the countryside to till the fields. Even you students. Haas is the revenge of righteousness. The students come and I say, yes, we're firing him. Yeah, we fired the problematic guy. And then I get on the podium and I say, and then the Haasian Red Guards walk in and I go, and you students, your university is being dismantled now and you go work in the countryside. I'm against Harvard. I'm against Yale. I'm against the professors. I'm against the academic machine. I'm not going to bitch about cancel culture. Haas will bring true cancel culture. I want to bring the true Maga cultural revolution, the dark cultural revolution. And that's what it is. This is the dark cultural revolution. Fuck Yale, fuck Harvard, fuck the universities. Bill Maher, you're sitting here and bitching that you want to salvage. Oh, I thought Yale and Harvard was a place of learning. It never was that. It was always a place where elites, all this bullshit came from there anyway. These smug, fraudulent, corrupt elites are spreading poison and filth to our fucking country. Bunch of know-it-all institutional experts who don't know shit, stifling our creativity and our human endeavors. They dismiss us as quacks and illegitimate. Fuck them. That's not a place of truth. The institution is not a place of truth. I'm a Ron Paul Maoist. And I want to cancel the state. I want to cancel big government. I want to cancel the university institutions. I want to cancel the imperialist state machine. I want to cancel the fucking parasite graduate student class. I want to cancel taxes. Thank you, Chris
Originally, the
Moran.
only major problem with the Chinese Cultural Revolution was that urban-educated PMCs were a fraudulent revolutionary subject. When it found the rural workers as the subject, it was real.
Exactly, and that's what happened toward the end, Chris, believe it or not. I mean, it started out among the privileged students, and then slowly it was really the sons and daughters of the peasants that went to Beijing to learn. That's the people who started it. But then slowly it went back to the peasants, and that's when shit got real, right? That Dongping Han details all of it. I want to cancel taxes. I want to cancel big government. I want to cancel the CIA. I want to cancel the FBI. I want to cancel the federal agencies. I want to cancel government spending on the deep state. I want to cancel the deep state. I want to cancel Harvard. I want to cancel Yale. Fuck you, Bill Maher, you fucking... I want to take the cultural revolution to its conclusion. The dark Maga cultural revolution. Everyone, immortalize this slogan. The dark Maga cultural revolution. That's what we believe in.
Justice system. But because he merely alluded to those words, again, in the service of a good cause, he was banned from campus.
He's not a victim. He's a weak fuck. Fuck this guy. He's not a fucking victim. Fucking stupid glasses asshole.
Placed on...
Fuck him.
Indefinitely.
You think this guy's better than Farmer Jack? Farmer Jack grows potatoes. What does this fucking guy do? Wear a suit? Fuck this guy.
And made to wear the dunce cap.
Good. He should wear a... MAGA should make him wear that hat for imposing poisonous liberalism on the people and deindustrializing America and taking everyone's fucking jobs away and telling them to learn to code. They should put a dunce cap on him.
No, not really the dunce cap part, but our American version of that. 8 weeks.
Fucking Bill Maher's gonna be like, oh my God, the wokes are canceling Bill Gates. Well, fuck Bill Gates. I don't give a fuck.
Of sensitivity.
This is the DeSantis deception right on display.
Training. Weekly 90-minute sessions with a diversity trainer and having to write 5
I want to cancel all diversity training. I want to cancel everything. Cancel it all. Cancel everything. Cancel debt. Cancel taxes. Cancel all of it. Accelerate the cultural revolution. That's what we believe in.
Reflection papers. A grown-ass man. A liberal law professor. If you can't see the similarities between...
A liberal law professor. Well, you reap what you sow. You reap what you sow. All this is the conclusion of liberalism. All this is the conclusion of liberalism. I am Haz Al Ghul. I believe in justice. I believe in justice. You can't escape your own fucking justice, you bitch. You're a liberal law professor. Your liberalism is the foundation of wokeness. Now you reap what you sow. And Haz the just will take note of that. Haz the just will bring it to its conclusion. Ron Paul Maoism!
Between that and this, the person who needs re-education is you.
No, the person who needs re-education are the corrupt politicians that have been robbing our country and our people for decades now, and our deep state and our rotten liberal professors. Shouldn't professors feed people? What did Lysenko say? He said, I want to feed people. I don't want to play with insects and flies. Why don't we do something that uplifts people from these universities? It's always bullshit that what? I'm a liberal professor. Well, go. We can all be professors. We have the internet now. We don't need these fucking academic parasites anymore. Open source internet pirate society. We can have that. We need a cultural revolution to have that, though.
Yes, we do have our own Red Guard here, but they do.
Yes, and it's the Haz al-Din. Thank you so much, Black Pack.
Haze them.
And it's the guerrilla army. Our Red Guard is the guerrilla army.
They're rampaging on Twitter.
No, Twitter's not the Red Guard, Bill. That's a farce.
Here's a cute example from a couple of years ago. The
They're not Red Guards. They're frauds.
banjo player
Anyone can make that noise.
from Mumford & Sons tweeted that he liked a book.
But fuck Mumford and Sons. You get what I'm saying, guys? You get what I'm saying with these examples Bill uses? You reap what you sow, dude. Mumford and Sons makes music that is cringe. Who the fuck wants to listen to that cringy music? Again. And I love my girlfriend, even though she fucks other men. And how I am such a redneck, but I'm from Brooklyn, Mumford and Sons. I'm a folk banjo player, even though I am from MIT and I have graduated from Portland University, and I am just LARPing as a redneck and LARPing as a folk country singer because I'm a fucking hipster loser. You can't see the connection between that and wokeness. I don't know what to fucking tell you. Mumford and Sons' hometown, Brooklyn or whatever, they're all wokes, dude. They're all these hipsters. No, you can't say that. No, you can't do that. No, you can't say. It's all the same shit.
A book that apparently had not been approved by the revolution. So, of course, he had to delete the tweet, then take time away from the band. Oh my God.
So he's a pussy. If someone bothered me about that, I would hypothetically just share a picture of my nuts on Twitter, and I'd just be like, all right, read this.
You mean this could...
If I was a singer and they tried to cancel me over a book, I would take a picture of my nuts, print it on the cover of a book, and then just share that book on Twitter and say, look what I'm reading now.
have affected Mumford and Sons?
You think I'd be a pussy and be like this guy? I wouldn't give a fuck.
And then the cringing apology. I have come to better understand the pain caused by the book I endorsed. Pain?
Who forced him to say that? Not me.
From a book?
Now, so nobody forced him to say that, Bill. You could just not be a pussy. How about that?
Unless he hit the drummer over the head with it.
Dude, you're mocking these, like, cringe liberals, but these are just the young... Dude, they're like 15-year-olds. You created them, dude. This is your offspring, Bill. You're not taking responsibility for the shit you created. It may have been an unintended side effect, but you reap what you sow, dude. Western liberalism, the chickens come home to roost. That's what you get.
What happened to I can read whatever the fuck I want?
Well, it happened when you started canceling us for reading stuff that criticized Israel, Bill. Remember, Bill? When you wanted to get professors fired for supporting BDS? Remember, Bill? If I walked into university and I had a book by Ayatollah Khomeini and Bill Maher, Bill Maher, it's 2004, and I want to go into university and be a professor who reads Ayatollah Khomeini's books, and I get fired, would you start your show up and support me? No, you'd oppose me. You'd be like, yeah, good for him. He's a terrorist. That's what you'd fucking say, Bill. You reap what you sow. You reap what you fucking sow.
Don't worry, I'm a musician. It won't happen again.
Dude, but if this guy flew a Hezbollah flag, Bill would support his cancellation. Interesting. Bill would be like, yeah, that's like not okay. Okay. So shut the fuck up. You're also cancel culture.
There was once a very different musician named John Lennon who wrote a song called Revolution. And people
Nobody gives a fuck. John Lennon was a loser.
who didn't really listen to it thought it was a rah-rah call for revolution. No, it was the opposite. The lyrics are, you say you want a revolution? Well, you know, we all want to change the world. But if you go carrying pictures of Chairman Mao, you ain't going to make it with anybody anyhow.
Yeah, we'll make it with the Maga working class, Bill. That's who we'll make it with. We'll make it with the people. And you could sit there and wear glasses and cry about it.
There's a guy who understood how...
We will make it, Bill. We are going to overthrow the liberal institutions and the democracy institutions is our goal. We are committed to it. We are Bolsheviks. We are American Bolsheviks! We are Ron Paul Maoists. We will oppose the democracy, the liberalism. We oppose it all. We oppose the glasses. We have conviction and faith in our hearts in the people and the people alone, alongside God overwatching us from heaven as our witness. We don't want to be in your liberal bubble, Bill. We don't want to have champagne with you in New York with SNL. We don't. No, the era of potatoes is upon us. The MAGA Midwest, the MAGA farmer, the MAGA trucker, the MAGA working class. We will bring American workers' dictatorship.
good in...
Bill's like, doesn't everyone agree with me that we're all like normal liberals? No! We're not liberals. MAGA cultural revolution. Thank you so much, Clive.
Bill Maher literally built a career trying to cancel religion and people who read the book.
Exactly. He canceled Bible readers. He canceled people who like the Bible and smugly, I'm so much smarter. No, you're not. No, you're not. We will have a Bible cultural revolution.
Intentions can turn into the insane arrogance of thinking your revolution is so fucking awesome and your generation is so mind-bendingly improved.
This is like the fucking epitome of smug soy jack. What is this?
That you have bequeathed the world with a new kind of human. You're welcome.
Why can't everyone just be like me, Bill? I'm just like cool. You know, you're not cool, you're cringe and out of touch.
With communists, that human was no longer selfish.
It had nothing to do with that. Had nothing to do with that. The Bible says don't be a selfish asshole, Bill. It's not uniquely from communism. Yeah, you shouldn't be a selfish asshole. It's just vaguely, it's a good ideal. It's a good moral code. Why not? You want people to just be selfish all the time? No, like for example, if someone's car is stuck on the side of the road, you stop and help them. What's wrong with that? That's selfless in a way. You're going, you're helping them, and you get on with your day. It's a basic morality, basic human morality. What's wrong with that?
America today, that human is no longer born male or female. And obesity is not something that affects health. You can be healthy at any size. Really, we voted on it.
Okay, but you are the origin of that, Bill.
A formerly serious magazine last year published with a straight face an article called "Separating Sports by Sex Doesn't Make Sense."
Bill, this is your democracy. You reap what you sow.
Yes.
Liberal democracy, you reap what you sow. Open society, you reap what you sow. Liberalism, you reap what you sow. No, we're going too far, guys. Well, you're just a hypocrite. This is what you get.
It does. Because again, we haven't reinvented Homo sapiens since Crystal Pepsi came out.
I get this guy's gonna shill for DeSantis. I bet you anything. He's gonna be a DeSantis. Well, you know, DeSantis is gonna win, and he's gonna be like, you know, I didn't like DeSantis, but Top Gun, let's defeat the Chinese. Yeah, super cool and liberal. Fuck you, Bill.
I've spent 3 decades on TV mocking Republicans who said climate change was just a theory, and now I...
Skinny
Thank
fat
you,
is
Black
also
Back.
a problem.
You know what, Bill? He really scared of MAGA communism. That's all I'm gonna say. You're really scared of MAGA. Oh, you want to talk about the people you mocked over that one? Wait until you learn about us, Bill. We are much more... I want to get on Bill Maher's show. I want to do that.
I got to deal with people who say, you know,
I want to like be featured on it and have him cover me.
what else is just a theory? Biology.
It is just a fucking theory. Lysenko was right. He was right. He was right. He was right. Anyway, guys, that was a thorough destruction of Bill Maher, the deceiver, the false, the loser, the cringe, the coward. Anyway, guys, I will see you tomorrow. I will see you tomorrow. Hopefully much earlier stream and much longer. Okay? Bye-bye, guys. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. See you later.